Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special episode that I am doing with you today because yesterday I had a discussion with Aron Ra on his channel, and it was about myself discussing with him or giving him the reasons I have believed in God and why I see there is plenty of evidence for Allah. And we agree that I would have 1 hour to present the case, and 20 minutes in my presentation, he cut me off. In the beginning, I said, I will do a presentation. The latter part is more important than the first part, and I organized it such that the first part talks about physics, and the second part talks about biology, and he is interested in biology, so I thought I would leave the biology part to the end. In the first part, I explained how in the Quran, God makes specific statements about the nature of reality, about the initiation of the universe, the creation of the stars, the expansion of the universe in a way that is miraculous. So when he says this, and when we see that this is the case on the ground, we know that the one who wrote this book is the creator of the universe. And on the second part, I was just starting to present when he cut me off and he said I already took 20 minutes while we had agreed on 1 hour, and he stopped my presentation. So what we're going to do today is that we are going to see the presentation that I did not continue yesterday. And if you have questions or you would like to post questions in the comment section, please do, and I will respond live. I have also invited a few colleagues to the live stream, and they will join the discussion after I go through the presentation. Let's do it. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you. Yeah. Okay. So here is the presentation. And yeah, maybe I should even make it a little bigger, or even a full screen. So just a second. So we do this properly. Yeah. Okay, so here it is. So the presentation is about finding God. I'm a Muslim, so the name of God is Allah. So I started off the presentation talking about my background. So I made this parable that if you find a house in the middle of the forest, and you go and then dwell in the house, and then somebody comes and tells you, I'm the engineer who built the house, and you ask him for evidence, and he tells you about the secret doors of the house, and you go and check them out, and he tells you about specifics about the design of the house, and you go and you check them out, and this information couldn't have been known except to the one who designed the house, then you know that he is a designer and he is the owner. And so I started giving examples from nuclear physics, from what we know about the universe, that it had a beginning, about what we know about the status of the universe, that it is expanding. I gave specific references to how God mentions that specifically in the Quran, and how he mentions that the fabric of space and time and matter would lend itself to destruction unless he has put in the universe things that make it do not collapse, like what we call dark energy, like what we call quantum nature of electrons, etc. And I have even talked about stars and how it is clearly mentioned in the Quran that the sky was at a point of time smoke, and that he created stars after that smoke status. And I said that also our science does not make that a process that will lend itself to happen naturally. And then I was just about to speak about if we can feel Allah, if we can feel God in our day-to-day observations. And I'm referring to this ayah, and this ayah was a response from Moses to Pharaoh. It is recorded in the Quran. Pharaoh asked Moses, "Who is your God?" And he says, "Our God is the one who has given everything its creation and then guided." قال ربنا الذي أعطى كل شيء خلقه ثم هدى. So we expect when we look at nature to find creatures that do not only have bodies, but that have guidance. Because he says he has given everything its creation, and then he guided. So let's first think about what we do when we design things. We set a purpose for the thing, we design it, we put together its materials, an orderly process to deliver it, but also we put together an instruction manual so that the user can use this product. If the product is autonomous, like an autonomous car, for example, then we need to give this car a map to be able to navigate the city. We need to give it sensors to be able to make sense of its surroundings. But we also put inside it how to process this information. We put inside it the rules of the traffic, etc. So if we create something and we want it to act autonomous, it is not only about creating the material, it's not only about the creation, it is also about the guidance. So do we see this around us? Was the question I was just going to answer. Now, I was making this parable that God has created, and he set purpose, he set functionality of the creatures upon their purpose. He made this design manifest into their morphogenesis. Their parts list, their components, their proteins, etc., is in their DNA. Their assembly instructions is in their gene regulatory networks. The cells are the machines that create those bills of material upon the bills of material that are in the DNA and as regulated by the gene regulatory networks. And then he gives the law and he gives the maintenance instructions. The law and the maintenance instructions in case of humans is religion. But for us to believe in a religion, we need to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed it. So is this revelation something that we can observe in our daily life? So we have peace of mind that Allah has not cut himself off from the universe and that he is indeed in constant communication with his creation? Let's see. So in my field, in the communications science, when there is a signal at the destination, it means that somebody is transmitting at the source. There might be some noise, but we know that if there is a signal, if there is an intelligible signal, there is a transmitter who is sending this signal. So how do you know there is a signal? When you have information at the other side, because information is the product of a mind. So if we find information at one side, we need to ask ourselves, where is this information coming from? And we need not fool ourselves by giving it fake names, because then we are the losers in this case. So can it be that there is a signal just without a transmitter? Just noise creates a signal? Our understanding of how things go is that signals come from minds and they are not random. Let's look around us. Can we find the Creator by detecting his guidance? Is it a common observation in our daily lives? Let's look at this. Have you ever heard before about birds migrating? So I'm giving you here a satellite level depiction of migration of types of birds from one place in Europe to another place. maybe the first place when it gets cold, those birds would migrate to places that are warmer. But we have these questions. To do this kind of navigation, in our experience, we build airplanes and we have what is called a GPS system. It's a positioning system that is managed by satellites that send to our aeroplanes their location. And in the aeroplane, there is a map, so the pilot can see what is his current location versus his required destination. His required destination is information that he gets, and the route that he would take is also information prescribed to him, because he needs to go through the correct route, otherwise he would run into problems. So I want to pose this question. This bird, whatever it is, it's a pigeon, it's any kind of bird. How does a bird that is in a freezing situation in Northern Europe know anything about the matter of migration? And how does it know where to go? And how does it know that this place that it will go will be warm? How? If you bring some birds and they don't even see their parent, and you hatch the eggs and you leave them, what do you expect? At the proper time, they do not wait until they freeze to death. At the proper time of migration, they will migrate. And when the winter season, for example, is over, they will migrate back. Why? Why do they do this? The question is, where is the information coming from? Not only did we find out that birds do this amazing thing and map it this way, but we know that some birds actually have GPS systems. They track the magnetic field. They have things in their head, in the brain, that would enable them to navigate through the magnetic field of the Earth. How does a bird understand the magnetic field of the Earth? How does a bird have, which is equivalent to the GPS, how does it know about the map? How does it know its destination? And how does it know its proper route? We need to ask this question, because we know maps are not written in DNA. We know that destinations are not written in DNA. And we know that pigeons don't read books, and they don't go to schools, and they don't learn geography, and they don't learn about electromagnetism, and they don't have GPS smartphones in their hands with the map on it. It's a question. It's a question that we have to be honest to ourselves and ask. In the Quran, there is a bird, a hudhud, I think it's called hopo, and it's in the age of Prophet Solomon, and it goes to Yemen and checks on the kingdom of Sheba and comes back to him with news, and then goes back again with a letter. So a bird knows where Yemen is. He navigates there and he comes back. This fact is even mentioned in the Quran. Big question mark. Today we know that birds can use the star as a compass, the sun as a compass, the stars as a compass, others as a compass, the magnetic map of the Earth as a compass. All this birds can do, but they also understand from where they're starting, from where they're going, and how to, and when to go, and when to go back. Big questions. But is this only birds? We have all seen, I bet you, most of us have seen on TV shows this amazing creature, the salmon fish. And we see the salmon fish swimming in the reverse direction of rivers. They even jump in the reverse direction of waterfalls, because they start, for example, in this case, in the Pacific Ocean, they go to the shore, they enter the rivers, and they go opposite direction. And when they reach there, they're eaten in the middle by bears and by all kinds of predators and hunted. And when they reach their destination, they lay their eggs there, and then they die from exhaustion. So the new offspring gets out to the world, finding himself in sweet water in a river, grows a little bit, and then leaves itself in the direction of the current to be spawned back into the ocean. And in the next season, or when it's big enough to lay eggs, it will do the same trip. How did it know? How did it know that it should leave the ocean and go into the river and lay eggs? Why does it do all that effort? Why does it sacrifice itself? And who's telling it this? Who's giving it this information? Do salmon fish have it in their DNA to go to sweet water and to go against the direction of currents? Who taught them this? We need to think. Allah, God says that He has given creation and He has given guidance to everything. To everything. We started by the birds and now we see it in the fish. But is it only there? We have also seen crocodiles. And we have seen that those crocodiles would lay still on the shore of a river and they open their mouth and then these birds would come and clean their teeth. And I have a question, because we also see crocodiles eating and hunting birds. The question one, how does this bird know that if it goes to the crocodile, it will not eat it? And how does it know that little food crumbs between the teeth of the crocodile are food that it can actually consume without itself being eaten? And number two, why on earth does the crocodile go and hunt this bird and does not hunt that other bird? How does this symbiotic relation exist? Don't tell me about evolution and don't just call it instinct. Instinct is just a name. My question is, why does this, from where is the information in this instinct coming from? How does the crocodile know about the bird and how does the bird know about the crocodile? Doesn't this strike you as evidence that God is not only creating but guiding? So we looked at birds, we looked at fish, we looked at reptiles together with birds. Does it stop there? No. Have you seen any baby dog, a puppy? Have you seen any baby anything, mammal? Do you notice that once it is born, it runs to suckle? How does it know that there is something like a breast of its mother and that it needs to suckle? And even this creature that we call a human being that is born with no concept about its whole world, when it's put on its mother's chest, it goes to suckle. How does it know? Some of the scholars have had this idea about this verse in Surah Al-Balad, which says, وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ, and we guided him to the two routes. Some said the two routes are the route or the path of right and wrong, but I was fascinated when I went through the opinion that says the two routes is the two breasts of the mother. A baby is born with information that its survival depends on suckling milk from its mother. How wonderful is that? So when we're babies, when we're innocent, this guidance that goes to the other innocent creatures even comes to us. Doesn't this strike you? Is that the only thing? We see even more. Have you seen a movie for lions hunting? Look at this one. Did you see how it's planning? How it's hiding until the gazelle comes near and then it suddenly attacks? Have you seen documentaries about these hunting formations, these military formations the lions do to hunt a pack or a flock of buffalo or of zebra or whatever? Lions put together hunting plans and have strategies, and they know which animals they will hunt, and they make calculations for their speed and the speed of their prey. How do they get this sophisticated information? Do they sit in a war room and do they have drawings and plans? This is clear guidance. This is clear info. This is sophisticated information that requires strategy and planning. Who is providing this information? Their life, the life of the cat, the life of the tiger, the life of the lion depends on the ability to have those strategies, because it's not the fastest creature around. Gazelles run like crazy fast, but they can hunt them. They're just few, and it's a big flock of buffalo or whatever, and they're stronger when they're together, but they make a plan to separate the weakest. How do they have this strategy? Is this not, to you as a person who is looking for God's guidance, obvious guidance? I say yes. And he said so. Have you seen a dam built by humans? It's down there. I'm giving an example down there. And a dam is built on a river, and it will retain water behind it and then open the water. It's an engineering marvel for humans to build dams. But guess what? This animal, an animal called the beaver, beavers build dams since, I don't know, hundreds or millions of years. Beavers just build dams. How does a beaver even have the slightest idea of blocking the path of a river? How on earth does it know that if it brings this small piece of wood and that piece of wood and put them together, this will be a dam, and it will stop the water flow, and it will give it benefits related to its lifestyle? And don't think that this dam is just a bunch of wooden scrap put together. No, look at this picture that I'm putting here. It has structure from inside. It has tunnels. It gives the beaver the opportunity to pass from inside, and there is a water bubble there. This is just mind-boggling. This is striking. Are you still looking for evidence that there is somebody who is guiding this universe? The creatures that have brains, that have minds, like animals, receive this guidance every day in front of your eyes, and you are not stopping in front of it. There is no explanation. There is no explanation for this. I'm going to have a guest with me today to discuss, and I'm going to have another discussion next Thursday with people who are experts in genetics, who will tell me if they know that this is written. Because when I was discussing with Aron Ra and I asked him, how does a beaver know how to build a dam? He said, instinct that he gained through evolution. Well, you just call it instinct and you run away? No. Tell me, where does he get the information from, and tell me where the information is written. It's nowhere. It's something that has been downloaded to his mind, like we download software. Like we have the software for reading the maps, and then we upload the map of this new city when we go there. When we had to do that. Now it happens automatically. This is what's happening. This is God's revelation in front of your eyes every day. And you're still telling me you cannot see God and you cannot find God? Have you? So we covered even beavers now, okay? Rodents. But of each living creature. So those are crustaceans. Does it stop there? Let's go to insects. Let's go to insects that we spray and kill by the hundreds or the thousands, and we don't even think of them. A great part of our life on this planet depends on bees, because bees would transpollinate plantations. But bees are also engineers. They are civil engineers. In the full meaning of the word. They build these marvelous hexagonal structures that have engineering marvels in them, They are signaling engineers. You know, when a bee finds a place where there is pollen and there is roses, a scout will go. When it finds it, it will do this dance, which is a sign language, so that the other bees would decipher this language and translate it into a location information, and they will go. How on earth does bees invent a sign language to communicate locations in GPS precision? How on earth? How do they understand that they should build hexagonal structures? How do they have social structures? How do they split work together? Why do they sacrifice themselves? Why do males remain workers? Why do females do this and that? Why queens take their social role? Who is organizing? Who is orchestrating? But in the Quran he says, وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ أَنِ اتَّخِذِي مِنَ الْجِبَالِ بُيُوتًا وَمِنَ الشَّجَرِ وَمِمَّا يَعْرِشُونَ. And your Rabb and your Lord has revealed, has secretly communicated to the bees to take from the mountains housing, and from the trees, and from what they construct, from what the humans construct. God is communicating to the bees the way of life that the bees is doing, how to build their structures in human structures, and we put them in these boxes and they accept it. An insect accepts domestication happily, and when they are on the tree they build this hive, and when they are in a cave or in a mountain they build a proper structure and they do the hexagons. Who has given them this marvelous engineering and signaling information? Who is revealing it? To the insect. We covered fish, we covered reptiles, we covered rodents, we covered crustaceans, we covered animals. What else do you want? And remains the humans. Because all of those animals are innocent. Don't be deceived by the idea that a lion is a predator and he would eat the buffalo. He is doing it because this is its prescribed role. It has downloaded its code of conduct. It knows what, and the buffalo knows its role, and the buffalo accepts that you put it in a slaughterhouse and you domesticate it. Like it's a prey for the lion. They have their social laws and their rules of engagement, but we have free will. Humans sitting at the top of what they call the evolutionary pyramid know nothing. We are born knowing nothing, and he says this in the Quran, that when we are born we know nothing, but still we know how to suckle. He sends us the guidance to be able to suckle. But he doesn't leave us. What is the natural next thing to expect, for God's sake? That he has created the best of his creation that he calls the human being. Will he deprive human beings from guidance? No. Just like he sent it to the insect and to the fish and to the mammal and to the crustacean and to the rodent and to the lion and to the tiger. He sends it to his most beloved creation, to the human beings. But we have free will. He will not download it into your brain and make you like compelled to do it like the animals. He gives you a book. You have signed a contract to come to this life, and he records the contract in the Quran. He records the contract in the Quran. وَإِذْ أَخَذَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ قَالُوا بَلَى شَهِدْنَا. And remember when your Rabb has taken from the children of Adam, from their backs, their offspring, and made them bear witness on themselves. Am I not your Rabb? Am I not your Lord? They said, yes, we bear witness. This happened. We don't remember it, because what will be the test if we remember it? What will be the test if we remember the spirit world when he took this? When we signed the contract and we accepted the challenge. But he doesn't. He sends them the guidance. Many times people would send me this or that note. Why does God not show himself? Why does God not talk to us individually? Why does God not do this and that? If he is there, why doesn't he need evidence? Because if he talks to you individually, if he downloads the message in your brain, if you find a book coming down from the sky, what is the purpose of your free will, and what is the purpose of your intellect, and what is the purpose of your innovation? And where is the test? Why would you deserve his presence? For God's sake. Just as Allah gives each creature its code and way of life, he has sent to the humankind religion. He sent messengers and messages. It is your and my choice to follow or to turn away. But when you turn away, do not complain like Aron Ra did in the discussion and said, in your book it is said that that God blinds me and makes me deaf and covers my heart. Yes, because you are wearing a t-shirt with the word kafir on it. You have declared yourself as someone who covers the evidence. So he will treat you the way you want. He will not force you to see, but if you take a decision from inside to look and to purify your heart and to be neutral in your thinking, you will see God's revelation each minute and each second and each day and night, when you're looking and when you're not looking. Because there are trillions over trillions of creatures, from bacteria to blue whales on this planet. And he is talking to them, and he is revealing to each one of them every second and every moment. And you look around, and you look the other way. You choose to look the other way. And when they say, like as if you're with innocence of a baby in your eye, what is the evidence for God? There is no God that I can see. It is because you are wearing blinds and walking in the night and closing the light. I cannot give you evidence if the evidence is like the sun in the middle of the day, but you choose to cover your eyes. It is your and my choice. Thank you for listening to this, and I would really now see if my guest is here to join me, and let's have a discussion. I have a friend of mine, and I also have some good questions on the chat here. So yeah, so we are going to answer the questions, and we are also going to have a discussion with a friend of mine here. So Dr. Amr, would you go video and audio or only audio? Can you hear me? Let me call you on. See you. I'm adding you to the screen now.
Okay.
So
I think you can hear me now, and we can close the phone. So can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Good. So I have Dr. Amr with me, and he's a dear friend of mine actually, and he's actually a medical doctor, and he has also a PhD in medical sciences. So, and he actually teaches in the university. So, Amr, I would like to ask you a question in the beginning. So when I was having the discussion with Aron Ra, and I just gave him a straight question: how does a beaver, Aron, how does a beaver know how to build a dam? And he said, it's an instinct that he built through evolution. Do we have in medical science, you studied DNA, of course, and you studied as a background in medical school, correct? Do we have something like in DNA? I asked him also about how does a pigeon know the map of the Earth so that it migrates. I guess you were watching the presentation with me, correct? And he said, and I told him, where is that stored? He said, maybe in the DNA. And I told him, no. And he said, okay, ask a geneticist. And he's, by the way, the director of the Phylogeny Explorer project. And he spent like many years and years studying living things. I want to ask you this question. Is it a scientific finding that maps of terrain are stored in the DNA of any creature, including the human being? Is this taught to you at school in biology or in university, or do you teach that?
Well, actually, we all know that DNA material stores information in the form of sequence of nucleotides inside the DNA, and that this sequence gets translated into proteins, and the proteins eventually perform functions. So that is just taking it in a very simple statement. Actually, what we're discussing concerning the ability or the skill, the inborn skill that a human or an animal has, the ability to think, the ability to behave in a certain way, this is not coded by a certain protein. It is not coded by a certain sequence of DNA material. So I don't know how he could explain that this behavior has been stored as information inside the DNA and has been developed inside this DNA from a haphazard mutation that occurred and was selected to continue and propagate. So no, DNA does not store information for behavior. It stores information for proteins. These proteins may affect the function. They produce hormones. They produce a lot of other stuff that eventually controls how the living organism interacts with the environment around it. But behavior, emotions, and inborn skills like the ones you showed us in animals, in insects, in humans, and all around, no, we have not, as of yet, identified any part of the DNA that can encode information for a certain skill.
Actually, and from what you have studied about human biology and human brain, let me play, what they call the devil's. I don't like the word, the devil's advocate, but okay, metaphorically, I'll play the devil's advocate. Okay. If I am, for example, an engineer and you are a medical doctor and you have a PhD in medicine and I have, masters in engineering and I know information science and communications, is it expected that my son will automatically, be born and can solve differential equations while your daughter is born, already aware of the human digestive system or the human skeletal structure? Do we see observations like that school knowledge or university knowledge is transferred from one human being to his offspring without having to learn it anew? Does this happen? So, because why am I asking this? Because maybe the pigeons, there was this, evolutionary theories. They go like this, and it happened by accident, and somebody might come and tell me, well, this pigeon traveled to the other side of Europe or to the other side of Africa, and when it found it, it learned that so hard, so that its eggs, had the information. Do we see that information is transferred by conception? Does DNA carry these things? Can anybody claim that this is scientific?
Well, of course, you're answering the question yourself. No, my daughter did not turn out to become a doctor as well, and she doesn't understand a thing about medicine. So the answer, no. These are things that we learn. Maybe the analytical skills and the abilities are to some extent shared, and the effect of the environment as well, since the child is born, has a great effect on the abilities that we learn and the skills that we gather as we grow up. But no, DNA information does not store the concepts and the knowledge that we as parents learn and transmit them automatically to our offspring. Of course, this is not the case.
So when you say skills, for example, you are very athletic and you have flexibility and good muscles, and this is part of your body structure, and maybe somebody else is, maybe you are very smart, and maybe this has a physical manifestation that your neurons are connected in a specific way, and this goes through inheritance and through DNA. But does the information stored in those neurons and the tricks that you learn in the gymnasium and in your gymnastics class, and you play ping pong very well, I swim very well, do I expect that my son will not need a swimming course? He can inherit my muscles, but does he inherit my information about how to swim? Is this something that happens? It's scientific?
Well, actually, what you are pointing at is the amazing thing that we are all structurally and anatomically and microscopically similar. All of human beings, they have the same structure. If I take your brain and my brain and we look under the microscope, we will find that both these brains are similar. There may be some minor differences in the amount of the synapses and interactions between the different neurons. There may be some differences in the size, but the general structure and the anatomical structure of your brain is almost exactly the same as my brain, and as every other human being as well. Yet, these brains have completely different personalities. We have different, not just abilities, but different personalities. I'm a completely different person than you are. I behave in a completely different way. I think in a completely different way. My logic is different from yours. My instinct, my emotions and reactions to the different emotions are different. Yet we are structurally the same. And this difference is not just something that is the effect of the environment and the effect of the surrounding people. It is inborn. The baby from day one, you will find a baby who is screaming and crying and reacting aggressively to every single problem, and another baby who is completely peaceful and reacting very peacefully to different things. So personality traits are inborn traits, and you cannot find a physical base to these personality traits. So there are a lot of things that are not explained simply just by the anatomy and the structure and the physics and the underlying DNA and sequences and genes and so on. A lot of things. Even the brain itself.
For sure, not knowledge. So we definitely
not
agree
knowledge.
That knowledge is an information, because what I have put in the presentation is not only information about how to do things. It is information about the surrounding and the remote environment. We have a fish a fish that
Yes.
we, that we make a barbecue of, a salmon fish, and this
Yes.
fish lives in the Pacific Ocean, and it has information. God knows how it gets it. It's born in a river. It swims down the river. It goes to the ocean, and in a specific time, it will go back, find the same river, go to the other direction to lay eggs. And it never
Yes.
saw its parents. Nobody taught it this. And
Yeah.
then somebody will come and tell me, we do not see God. We do not see Allah. We do not see your God. We don't see any other God. This is materials. Creatures are DNA. DNA is, this thing that happened randomly. And I have my position versus evolution, but I'm not talking about evolution here. I'm talking about people who do not see this extra level of being, and they just want to invoke materialism. And will you agree with me that when we see operational information that is not even related to the creature itself, a map, the place of a river, the design of a dam, the design of a hexagon, that it is fair to say that this information, since it exists at the receiving side, somebody must be transmitting, and this person who is transmitting cares about those creatures? Is it fair to say that this is a scientific statement? From my perspective as a communications engineer, I have no other explanation. Do you have another explanation as somebody who works in biology and medicine?
Well, actually, I do believe that this is information that has been downloaded into the living organism, whatever it is. And as you see and find it on the different organisms and the examples that you gave us, you can see this information being downloaded even at the cellular level. I mean, when you look at the embryological development of humans or any other babies, you start with a cell that is exactly similar, that divides into another cell that is exactly similar to the original cell. So you start with a zygote formed of one cell, and then it continues to divide. But then an amazing thing starts to happen at a certain stage where something called differentiation starts to happen. Two cells that are originally exactly anatomically similar in their structure, with the exact similar DNA information stored in both cells, these two cells start to differentiate into two completely morphologically different cells in the end, that not only are different with different functions, but have complementary functions. They help each other. They cannot exist alone without the other one around it. If the cells that are in the area where the liver should form do not differentiate into liver cells, and the cells that are in the area where the a brain should form would not differentiate into brain cells, and so on and so on and so on, the organism will not survive. The organism will not become such a complex creature. So does
this relate in your mind to the ayat, for example, that are talking about?
Yes, this is an information that is given. This is an information that is given to this specific cell in this specific geographical location of the fetus or of the developing zygote, telling it you are going to differentiate into, you are going to use the DNA knowledge that is stored inside you, this part of the DNA knowledge, to differentiate into a liver cell. You are going to use this part of the DNA knowledge to differentiate into a brain cell, and you will perform the function that is necessary to the survival of the other. So, and this is not, if you're talking about the guidance that is continuing and proceeding every minute. So if you're looking at the number of fetuses that are born every second, and this repetitive process that is guiding the formation of the baby at every single step, I think this is evidence enough that it does not happen on its own. It happens due to some information being intentionally transmitted to the cell that is structurally and anatomically exactly similar to the other cell, telling it where to go, telling it where the final path should be. So
and you will find evolutionary biologists, they would say, okay, there are morphogens, and there are these things that have material manifestations that we might later discover that, trigger chain reactions that cause the differentiation. But now, this is a miracle for me, but I'm afraid some evolutionary biologists might say, we will discover later a material process related to the gene regulatory networks that guide this. But will you be any day of the week, as a person who teaches science in the university and practices medicine every day, will you be comfortable any day of the week, any time of the day, saying that the only explanation for having ecosystem-related information, habits-related information, how to use your skills to survive related information that is available with each creature that lives on this earth, each insect, each animal, each fish, each bird, each predator, each mammal, each whatever, will you be comfortable to say that the only source of this knowledge is from the Creator? Will you be comfortable to say that?
Of course, I'll be comfortable with this. Actually, I noticed that I heard your discussion with Aron before. The thing that they're talking about is that we attempt. They think that we attempt to, if we don't find an explanation to a certain thing, instead of saying, "Okay, I don't know what the explanation is," I invent the idea of God and say that this is the explanation just to get out of the problem. But I believe that we are not actually doing this. What we're actually doing is that we are using our expected scientific method of thinking to find a solution. So, for example, if we find a certain observation and we see that we put a hypothesis for this observation to explain this observation, then we test this hypothesis and see if it predicts and answers the question. For example, if we have something like the bird that goes and migrates, we should expect our logic and our science and our cause-effect relationships that we have learned all through our life tell us that if you are not taught a certain information, you cannot perform a certain skill. This is the logic. But what we see is that the bird has the skill to perform such a very sophisticated function. So we see here that our expected cause does not lead to our expected result. The expected result would be that the bird would stay in its place, would not know what to do because it hasn't been taught what to do. It hasn't been taught by a parent. It hasn't been taught by trial and error. It hasn't been taught by anything. So our normal expectation would be that this does not happen. But the reality is that it happens. It performs such a sophisticated skill. And the explanation here would be that there would be no other explanation except that something intervened to change the outcome into a certain specific outcome. And this is what we're talking about, the presence of intent, the presence of something that has changed the outcome. If this hypothesis can explain all of the observations that we see, I think it is a very logical and factual observation.
Is it
hypothesis, I mean.
Is it only intent, or it is intent and care? So we have a mind who is doing this on purpose, and he also cares about those creatures. So is it fair then to say that the human being, who should be the pinnacle of the creation, even in our sciences, we consider ourselves at the top of the pyramid, correct? And the supreme being, the divine being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's caring for all of those, doesn't it come by immediate logic that we should expect that he sends to us revelations and messages, but in a way that will be consistent with our free will? He will not just download it into our brains like he does with the insects and the birds and the animals. He will give them to us like any other controversial piece of knowledge or law or guidance, and then we can use our free will to accept it or reject it. Would that be a fair statement in your opinion? Of course, well, some can say that we are biased because we're both Muslims. But is this a fair position in your opinion, as a person who is also a scientist, who would put forward a hypothesis that there is mind, there is intent, and there is care, and test this hypothesis for each creature that lives, and then would immediately say that there is no reason that the human being is excluded, and that we are getting guidance because we have purpose, he intends to guide us, and he cares about us? What would be your thoughts about that?
Yes, of course, I do. There is care. It's not just intent, it's intent and care. And because we are given a free, we have to be given the free will either to believe or not to believe, because we have been given the skills and the ability to think and choose. Since we are given the choice, we have to be able to make that choice. I mean, if this information has been downloaded to us, and we don't have the option whether to refuse it or to accept it, then we wouldn't have been given this ability to think, and this ability to deduce, and this ability to act upon our beliefs, and we wouldn't have been given the responsibility of eventually being rewarded or punished for our choices. So definitely I believe that there is continuous guidance, and since we have been given the ability to think, we have been given the free will, and to be able to choose willingly, the guidance has to come from Prophet Muhammad, from other messengers. It's not just Prophet Muhammad himself. The era before the Quran was revealed, there were lots and lots of messengers who provided the same message to all human beings from Allah. So it's always been there, the information and the guidance from Allah, and the free will to choose it or not.
Thank you very much for this comment, and I would like to comment on that. To all of those hundreds of people, or maybe thousands, I lost count, that I have gone into discussions with over social media and here and there, that ask that why doesn't God just download it into our brains? What you are asking for is that you degrade yourself to a creature that has no free will, that gets programmed like a bee or like an ant or like a crab or like a fish. And we're not fish, guys. Wake up. We're not fish. And we're not birds, and we're not insects. We're special, and we have free will, and we signed up. We signed that contract. And those who fulfill will reap the reward. And those who fail will pay. We all want to fulfill. He is a king of a vast kingdom, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he wants us all to go to paradise. Those who will not go to paradise are those who refuse to go to paradise because they're just stubborn. And I'll just go through some questions if you don't mind, and maybe we'd share those. So I have American Underground. He says, so what you're saying about signals is God telepathically guided humans throughout history? No, I'm saying he telepathically guided and is guiding every single creature on this earth, but he sends messages to prophets through angels or through direct revelation and gives that to you in a book so that you have your free will. He also says dinosaurs followed migration cycles 5 million years ago also. Am I right? Well, so I didn't say that God did not exist 5 million years ago or 10 or 200 million years ago. The number of years doesn't make a difference, because God has been there all the time, and even before time, and every creature that lived has always been guided by God. UBI says God does exist. Thank you for that. And God is obvious. Yeah, I bet you. American Underground also says which God exists, because even the Greek gods, Roman gods, Egyptian gods, and my culture gods had the same explanations. So which God? So I think Dr. Amr has said that nobody says that this last prophet was the final prophet, but you guess what? Humans have free will, and they also use their free will to corrupt messages. And because he cares, whenever a message gets corrupted, whenever the one God turns into a pantheon of gods that are being worshipped, he sends another messenger and another messenger. It is your obligation, American Underground, to find the last and final updated message and follow it, because it has his purified form of message that has set aside the corruptions of the previous ones. And Paul, he talks about the pyramids. I don't think that this is relevant. And Paul Rimmer says, there was some disappointing science errors in the earlier video. Paul, I promise you there wasn't any scientific errors in the earliest videos. And if you'd like to discuss that with me, you can do that on the chat. The argument can work. I think the argument can work, but the science needs to be cleaned up. Thank you for saying the argument can work, but the science is correct. Quantum mechanics and nuclear physics and cosmology and astronomy are tricky business. And I promise you that if you go to papers, you will see that everything that I said can be scientifically supported as I said it. Dr. Am, thank you very much for your presence today in this on this podcast.
Thank you.
And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And it's always it is strange that I have to say this, but it is a pleasure that in this world, not everybody has been intoxicated by thinking that he knows and that science answers the questions. Because, guys, I promise you that if you know the real science, if you really know quantum mechanics, if you really know biology, if you really know medicine, you will know that every day, the only thing that we know more every day is that we know that what we knew was so little. And the more we know, the more we discover that what we know out of what's there to know is so little. Do you agree with this statement? The more we discover in biology, in medicine, the more we learn about medicine, about the sophistication of the human body, it opens more questions that we suddenly find out that, oops, we didn't know as much as we thought. Do you see this in your study?
Have you just asked me a question?
Yes, I'm asking you, do you see in your study and your practice that the more we learn and the more we discover more, we're surprised that there is so much out there to learn, that when we open new frontiers, we find that the body of knowledge is huge, and that we just know a little part.
That's everywhere. The more you learn as a scientist, the more you understand that you don't understand a lot, that you still have a lot to understand, and the frontier keeps getting farther and farther and farther. The more you study in any branch of medicine or any branch of science whatsoever. Yeah.
All right. So a final message to Aron Ra. You cut me off when you saw the introduction to the part that I was preparing for biology. You cut me off. You cut off half of my presentation. You committed in writing that you will give me as much as 1 hour to present to you and to your audience why I believe that Allah exists. And I had the part of physics and the part of biology, and you cut me off from the part of biology. What I wanted to say in the part of physics, that what we learn about, when we learn more about science, we find that we only know so little, and that without a mind and an intent behind this universe, even physics wouldn't have worked. And surely biology would not have led to life as we know it, because life is not biology. Do you hear me, Aaron? Do you hear me every methodological naturalism intoxicated philosophical naturalist out there. Life is not the product of biology. It is not the product of biology. There is no mapping between biochemical reactions and a creature that lives and thinks and loves and hates and plans and strategizes and migrates and thinks about things. Wake up, guys. God is around you everywhere, every day, every second, talking to every creature on this earth, including humans, but he talks to us through laws that we can make, that we can break or we can follow. And it is your obligation, like mine and like Amr's and like everybody else's, to exercise this free will to retain your human status. Thank you very much, Amr, and thanks to everybody who will watch this and who has peeked in while we're doing it. And I'm also announcing that I'm having this coming Thursday a discussion about, does the study of life inevitably lead to belief in God or not? And I'll have with me somebody who represents people who do not believe in God, or at least represents himself, because this is his position, and an evolutionary biologist. And I'll announce it soon, so join me on that. And remember, guys, God talks to everyone. God reveals to every creature on this earth, including us. This is why we're here. Don't miss it. Life is short. See you in paradise. Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all. Thank you, Dr. Amr. Thank you very much for being here.